Hello again. This video I'm making about unhelpful things people say when you've just broken up from a narcissist, because despite all of my very well-meaning friends and family members and everybody else, I've had a lot of things said to me that have just kind of really invalidated all of my experiences and all the symptoms I've been having afterwards and everything I've been dealing with. So I know they all mean really well, but I just thought that maybe other people could connect with these things people say that make you feel crazy and kind of awful. So the first one is the sentiment of don't let him or her control your life. Like, if you want to go to that party, you should go. And if you see them, like, who cares? Just show them that you're fine and whatever. That's impossible for me still. And it's been 5 months-ish. So, I mean, that's a nice thought. Maybe if it were kind of a more normal breakup where I was kind of mildly annoyed to see this person, or maybe had like some sort of complicated feelings for them, but like knew that it was best that I shouldn't be with them, it would be different. But this is like a very triggering thing for me to see them. So, I'm the one who still like gets blurry vision a little bit when I have to drive within like 5 blocks of her apartment. And I'm the one who still goes to certain restaurants and bars and parks and anywhere, and remembers how we were there together last time and where did we sit and what did we talk about and everything like that. And I get kind of sad. So I just made the decision that, if I'm going to be happier staying far, far out of the way of her, if I miss a few parties, it's worth it to just feel like I know I'm not going to have to feel awful and I'm not going to have to take Xanax before I go. And to me, that is not letting her control my life. I'm going to do my own thing and I'm just not going to worry about it. I'm not going to try to be fake in front of her the way that she is fake and just make my life seem perfect. I'm just going to avoid her in all the ways that I can. The next thing that people have said to me is the good old cliche about plenty more fish in the sea. Sure, maybe. For me, that's complicated because I am a lesbian who also likes butches. So that's like a very small population, small percentage of the population in the first place. But then also everyone else after this person, you're comparing them to someone who's perfect because she doesn't exist. So, I had someone who had all the qualities that I wanted, like physically and I thought emotionally and, the type of lifestyle that I thought we wanted and the way that she acted in every way. So how am I supposed to compare everyone in this very small percentage of the population to this perfect person? Like, it's difficult. It's not as simple as like, you'll find anybody else anywhere. No, I mean, that's not true for straight people either. It's very difficult to find someone who lines up with you in all these ways, right? So it's kind of dismissive to anybody, but I kind of feel especially sensitive to it because it's so hard to find the kind of person that I'm actually attracted to. And of course, she made a comment about that, by the way, after we broke up and we're still kind of in contact for like a week or so. Like, oh, well, yeah, there's just not going to be any comparison. Wow, okay. Should have been one of my many cues that you're a narcissist. The next thing, just kind of a well-meaning question that people have asked me is, what are you going to do with the ring? Because we were engaged. Thankfully, we weren't married. And when I say pawn it, they say, but are you sure? What if she comes to her senses and things actually work out? Nope. First of all, if she does the hoovering thing and tries to rope me back in, I'm definitely going to completely ignore it. She's already done it in some small ways, but she only did it kind of immediately after the breakup. I'm sure, before she had found someone else or before she had just completely hooked someone else in. Anyway, she's not going to come to her senses. Of course, I don't want any of these comments to contribute to my feelings of being sentimental or, I don't want to be thinking about it anymore either in terms of what if. Like, it's my job to think about all the ways that clearly this person wasn't really a person. So I'm dismissing this. Don't make me think about maybe keep the ring. Like, I want the money from the ring to help me pay for, the move that I had to make because she turned out to be an awful person. Like, that's the only thing I want to be thinking about is I deserve that money, and that's it. Another thing people say is the good old, well, it'll be so good for you to be single for a while and just focus on you. First of all, so often this comes from someone in a long-term happy or seemingly happy relationship, who hasn't been single in a while and who probably hasn't been single when they were 30 like I am, which is kind of at the age where I feel like it's a little bit harder to meet people because everyone who's 30 isn't constantly going out and doing things. Like, they're either kind of coupled or they're over being at a bar all the time where it's like the easiest to meet people, I think. So that one is a little bit difficult. It just seems kind of judgy, and I think there's this added judgment about people who admit that they want to be with someone, like kind of especially for women who are kind of trying to consider themselves empowered like I do. I feel like you're supposed to say, I don't need that. I have a career and I have a dog and I'm great. And like, that's true. I am absolutely great being alone at this point. I've like come a really long way, even in these 5-ish months. That's fine, but that doesn't mean that this is my first choice. Like, I still really would like a partner in an actual healthy relationship, and I think it's okay if at some point I'm looking for it. So there's just that weird guilt associated with like, oh, you should just want to be single. It's so great. Like, no, maybe you don't remember, but for me, it's okay. It's not my first choice. Also, one of my friends, again, totally well-meaning, like took me out to coffee just to think about this stuff and talk about it with me, gave me a book that she said really helped her with one of her breakups, and it's called A Breakup Because It's Broken. Okay, that's a lovely idea, but that's not really the case with these narcissistic relationships. It kind of made me feel worse. It made me feel like I had contributed to why it was broken, and while by no means am I saying that I was perfect in the relationship, I don't think that it was this, equal kind of, oh, we both weren't quite right for each other thing. It was just broken. Like, nope. I was the same person as I was when I got taken to Germany and proposed to. Nothing changed with me, and then it became broken because, oh, you're a narcissist. So that was kind of difficult. This book also makes you kind of it brings up the period right after the breakup when you're racking your brain for why it didn't work. And it sort of does the like, sometimes people just come together and then they move apart, and that's fine. It's the natural flow of life. But again, this wasn't two equally emotionally healthy people coming together and then just sadly kind of not being the right fit. Like, there's so much extra baggage and trauma and everything, like trauma bonds that is coming with this type of breakup, that it's not as simple as like, oh, it was broken. It wasn't really that good. So, just stop thinking about it. Another thing is when you are talking to, again, very well-meaning friends or family, and you tell them some of the things that your narcissist said to you in the middle of all this verbal and emotional abuse or whatever other kind of abuse you were experiencing, and they go, oh my God, I can't imagine my partner ever saying anything like that to me. Great. Now you've just made me feel ashamed for having kind of not seen it coming based on nothing, because I really thought I had this perfect person. And now, I have to come to terms with the fact that, like, I sort of let that happen, and you can't even imagine it. How am I supposed to even respond to that? And again, I know that's a well-meaning thing, like to say, wow, that's really messed up. Of course it is. But it just, sometimes it comes across as like, oh my God, what kind of relationship are you in? Ew. It just kind of makes you feel worse. Another thing that people could say is, I can't believe you checked his or her email. My partner, I would never do that. Sure, of course, if you have a functional, healthy relationship, you would never check your partner's phone or email or Facebook or anything because that's private and that's awesome. And I hope I have a partner someday who, never would check my phone and has a completely different relationship with her friends and can talk about me or vent about me or anything, and I don't want to check it. But I feel like it's a different league sometimes when you're dealing with someone who's constantly lying to you about everything or nothing. Sometimes you need to know what you're dealing with. So at one point, in the midst of kind of the worst of all of the abuse and the lying and my complete confusion about how this was a totally different person, lots of narcissistic rage, I did check her email. And of course, she then tried to guilt me for, being the unhealthy one and you're making me not trust you and this is my privacy and all of that. Like, that's fine if it were a healthy relationship, but like, I really needed to know what was going on. And of course, when I checked, I found out all kinds of things about who she'd actually been talking to, despite the fact that she said she hadn't been talking to anyone because her phone was broken and she wasn't going to get it fixed and all of it, whatever. It doesn't matter. But I think it's difficult to feel like it was your fault for having needed to look into what was really going on after trusting and trusting and trusting and trusting and then having all this cognitive dissonance about what was actually going on. Sometimes you kind of just need to understand how badly they were distorting reality in order to be able to get mad and then move on. Another thing people sometimes say that's not very helpful is she'll regret breaking up with you as soon as she sees you out with someone else, and like seeing your ex with someone else always makes you jealous. No, because she doesn't have real emotions the way that most people do. So, she's the one who told me it would only be fair if she told me to move on after having been pretty jealous our entire relationship, which is the point at which I knew she really no longer cared. Telling me the only fair thing would be for me to move on was just shocking. So she really, truly doesn't care. The only person who would be hurt, again, if I saw her out even while I was with someone else, would be me. So that's not helpful. Along the same lines, people say, I'm sure she's just miserable and sitting around thinking about you, like immediately after the breakup. Again, no. I'm sure she never spent any time alone. I'm pretty sure she was spending all of her time with that coworker that she started gravitating towards, as soon as I started calling out on her stuff, because that coworker worshipped her. So no, she's not sitting around thinking about me. She never will. She's never going to have any perspective on our relationship. She doesn't feel anything about me because I'm not useful. Because, again, I started trying to hold her accountable, and then we got narcissistic rage. So another thing people say is, oh, I'm sure she's still just sitting around being an alcoholic by herself in her apartment. She was definitely an alcoholic. They wanted to put her in inpatient treatment. The first therapy session I actually somehow got her to go to, even though she only ended up going to 2, of course, and then convincing them that she was fine. So the idea that she is surely still an alcoholic by herself in her apartment is, of course, wrong, because I'm sure she was never by herself, even from the moment that I moved out. And because despite the fact that she hated the apartment that we had together, she wouldn't move out to the apartment where her sister was living that her parents had actually bought for them, because her sister is judgmental, which is the same word that she used for me when I started calling her out on stuff. So she couldn't move in with her sister because her sister would, of course, notice that she was a raging alcoholic. So she stayed living in that same apartment. However, I firmly believe that if she started dating someone who would have seen an issue with getting drunk every single night, she would just stop, because there's no way that she could put up with being seen in a negative light, right? She has to continue to be worshipped like narcissists do. So I actually think that could stop her from being an alcoholic, even though it was so severe. I think she could be an alcoholic with me because we were engaged and she knew that I would stay and either try to help her with it or, I don't know, just kind of deal. So she was allowed to show me, but I don't think she would let anybody else see it. And I know she's with someone, I'm sure she is, because she's never been alone for a second. So maybe she's not an alcoholic anymore. I don't know. Another thing people say is, my therapist actually said this one to me, and it was horrifying. You should be able to recognize when your thoughts are spiraling out of control and aren't linked to reality. Isn't that a nice thought for someone who's experiencing more anxiety than they ever have in their lives, and specifically linked to thoughts about this person? So I had said, it's really hard for me because I just keep thinking, I keep imagining that her life is probably so great now without me. And of course, that's because right before we broke up, she was intentionally listing all these things that she was going to go do and the ways that her life would be so great. I'm going to work out this way and I'm going to join this team and I'm going to be the best at this thing and I'm going to go move into this fancy apartment and everything because, of course, she has to portray her life as being perfect all the time. That's what they do. So before I realized she was a narcissist, I was like, oh, it just hurts when you think that this person's life is suddenly so great without you. And then here she is telling me I just need to recognize when my thoughts don't make any sense. Like, of course they don't make any sense. This person altered my sense of reality and love and trust and relationships in general. And so she put a lot of things in my head. So I don't really think I should necessarily be able to recognize when my thoughts are not linked to reality. That's a nice thought, I hope. Now I think that I can, but at that time it was just really kind of belittling for what I was experiencing. Also, something people say is, or no, I'm sorry, that was the last one. So anyway, I hope that these validated your feelings in some way after your probably awful breakups from narcissists. And when your friends don't get it, maybe you can watch this video and feel a little better. If you have any more things that people say that you want to share, add them in the comments. And again, thanks for watching, and I'll make another one soon.